Hi, welcome to the third episode of Escaping 9 to 5. I'm your host, DEANNA. And in this week's episode, I had a chance to sit down with the man behind Drew's amazing sequences, transitions, and sick shots. From Physio to Filmmaker, Michael has been traveling the world since 2015, capturing all of the moments on film, and has recently signed on as Drew Binsky's full-time filmmaker. And now they travel the world together making awesome videos. So put on your headphones and learn how Michael escaped the 9 to 5 and find the motivation in his story as he dropped everything to follow his passion in 2015 and hasn't looked back ever since. Hi Michael, welcome to Escaping 9 to 5. Thanks for joining me today.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for inviting me on the podcast. Excited to talk to your viewers.
I know. You just turned 30 and fabulous.
Can we remove that
Can we
from the
remove
podcast, please?
So-
no, you don't have to. Whatever works.
So it's a long journey for you from growing up in Canada, in Ottawa. Could you explain to us how you got from being a physio to traveling to Australia, and from Australia you traveled to New Zealand, and now you're in Bangkok? That was a crazy ride. I want to know more about your background. We've been traveling for how many months now, and this is the time that I would like to know you more.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Well, thanks again for having me. And like you were saying, grew up in Canada and went down the physiologist route. And it was all right because I had a sports background growing up, and it was kind of just something to do, and went to university in that. And it was an okay thing. I did personal training through university. And then once I graduated, seeing what it was actually like to work in a clinic full time, it was incredibly boring.
How many years did you work for a clinic?
Well, I had the years, the 4 years associated with in the gym, and as well as practicing in clinics through my degree, but I didn't even make it through one full year after my degree. I was just not interested in it.
You just don't want to be in a clinic.
Yeah, no, I had summer jobs outside and stuff growing up, and I knew that I didn't necessarily have to be fully outside all the time, but I couldn't be locked in a clinic, especially because the general population, they're not like athletes. I've worked with athletes in the past, and they want to do well. They want to get better. They're exciting to work with. I worked with the rugby team at my university, and that was a lot of fun because these athletes wanted to get better, and so any tip they could do it. But then in a clinic setting, when you're working with the general population, unfortunately, a sad reality is the vast majority of them are lazy, and they don't want to do the steps it takes. And it's not much we do. It's just do 10 squats or what have you, something simple. And then you'll see them a week later. And this isn't everyone, of course. Some people do it, but a lot of people don't. And then you're just like, why are you here? I can't help you, you gotta want to get better in order for you to get better, whether it be a joint injury or something like that. So it was more of in an environment that was, no one wanted to really grow, and then there was not much space for me to grow, so I felt a little trapped. One, from because I wasn't outside doing things I wanted, and others because there was a short ceiling in that type of job.
But why did you choose physio for your degree?
It was one of those situations where in my family in Canada, once you graduate high school, you just go straight to university. It's not really a thought. You don't really have a choice. So for me, I was in sports my whole life. I ran track and field. I played soccer. So if I had to go to a university, I was going to do something that involved sport.
With sports.
Yeah.
So you thought that was the line of job that you're going to have in the future, which you actually did for a year.
It's not that I thought I would have that job in the future. It was the degree that was the closest to what I was doing at the time, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do for a future job.
So towards the end of you being a physio, what was the feeling that you felt before when you realized that job wasn't meant for you?
Well, I guess it was a combination of one, feeling trapped, but then two, with the advances coming out in social media and digital marketing, I realized that there was opportunities out there. And my friend and I, for years, his name is Justin. We grew up together. We've always talked about going to Australia because he lived there for a year as a kid
Mm-hmm.
because he was his parents were in the military. But anyways, it was one of those things where I knew I just wanted to get out and experience something different. And Australia is also another kind of westernized country, so there wouldn't be too much of an adjustment there.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that after being Canadian and living through -40 every winter, I wanted to have a nice winter where it was like 25 to 35 degrees and not go outside and die.
It's like always the perfect weather every single day, even during winter time.
In the Gold Coast where I lived, yeah, the winters were really mild, maybe 20 to 25, and the summers were 25 to 35. It was pretty great.
What or how did you explain to your parents that you're moving to Australia? How did you explain it to them? Because a lot of people right now are afraid to leave their comfort zone. Also are afraid of asking the permission of their parents or their friends or the society that they're moving to another place and basically start a new life and to want to get out there. How did you explain it?
So yeah, it can definitely be a scary topic when you're thinking of approaching your parents or family member or significant other or whoever it is that you want to do something that's conceived as pretty drastic, especially where I'm from, and not many people would move across the world. It's usually, set in, get your house, and once you get your house, kind of save up to pay it off, and that's kind of what an accepted life is, and a job that has benefits and stuff like that. But I think if it's something you're truly passionate about and it's something that you want to try, as long as you don't go out to the other side of the world and party, unless that's something you want to do, but that's a different discussion. But if it is something that you actually want to do, there's never going to be a right time to like show and like list off a thing for your parents in a Microsoft Word document about like these are all the reasons. Like
Hmm.
it's more so just go and do it if you feel like you're going to accomplish it. And then a year from then, once you have all the accomplishments that you've done and what it's been like,
Hmm.
then your parents will understand and they'll get it because they'll see you a lot happier. They'll see you doing something you want to do. So it's one of those situations where a lot of people feel trapped because it is almost impossible for a lot of families to explain a just reason to go. So instead, you just have to realize that you've only got one life, go for it, and then over those times, 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, once you're actually there, you can show the people that, whether it be your parents or whomever, that they'll see that it was a good decision. But it's not that you can do that beforehand. You just got to go and then try your best wherever you go.
That's good. You're right. You don't need any validation from your parents, or maybe your parents you do, but not full validation because you're an adult. You can decide for yourself. So when you moved to Australia, what did you do there? And what were you thinking? Did you pursue physio in Australia?
Well, I looked into it when I first got there, but shortly after spending some time on the beach and just having some time to myself, I took a full month off of work just so I could kind of look into everything. And I realized that I wanted the opportunity to just have pretty much freedom as I could while still earning an income. So I decided to get into bartending because bartending offers really flexible hours. It's good pay, especially in Australia. Like it's around $20 to $25 an hour, depending on where you live. So I had the opportunity to have my days free, and that means I could go explore, I could go surfing in the mornings, I could explore the rainforest. It just gave me that opportunity. So bartending is what I dove into for the first bit there.
But you didn't have any background with bartending. So did you have proper trainings while you got hired or?
Well, as you'll probably hear through a lot of things with digital marketing, YouTube is an incredible resource. Like for filmmaking, it's a great start to learn there. But what I did honestly is I knew I wanted to have the freedom and the salary that bartending allowed. It'd be way better than working in like a retail store or whatever. So I literally went on YouTube, learned how to make cocktails, learned how to talk to customers because I'd had customer service style jobs, but never
Mhm.
in the hospitality industry. So I just did all that, and then I made sure I memorized a whole bunch of recipes, learned how to talk to customers, and then I started applying for jobs. And then I also signed up for a bartending course. It was like a 2-day course
Mm-hmm.
just north of Brisbane. But I got my first interview before the course, and everything went well. Like, I had lots of confidence because I had watched so many hours of YouTube, so I
Oh my
knew
God.
I knew what I was talking about. It's really cool. You can take other people's experience from YouTube. So then I did that, and then I got the job. It was good. We were happy. I did the bartending course, gave me even more confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I made some really good friends who helped me get a better bartending job on the beach, and stayed there for a year.
So when you moved to Australia, how was the adjustment period? Like, did you have a hard time? Did you have any friends there when you moved there? Because it's a scary decision to just move there without knowing anyone. Did you live with your best friend?
So I was planning on moving there with my best friend, but then he ended up being in Turkey for an extra 2 months. So I was going to
Mm-hmm.
be in the Gold Coast by myself, except I was dating a girl, and she came over from Canada with me. But within a matter of like a week, that ended. So I ended up just unplanned being completely by myself. But I always find sticking to your goals is the best course of action. I knew anytime I needed to just clear my head, I just do rock climbing or something, whatever you like, whether it be artistic or what have you. One benefit of rock climbing is that it gets you out in public, so you can meet
Mm-hmm.
people who like to do the same thing. So I don't know, maybe if your favorite thing is painting, instead of just painting by yourself, if when you go to a new country, go on Facebook or go on the internet and look for a group, whether it be like painting or playing soccer or
Mm-hmm.
anything where you can meet other people. So that's what I did. I went to the rock climbing gym. I kind of talked to a few people, asked how the different routes were set up as kind of just like an icebreaker. And then I got really lucky, and a couple of Aussies came over and we started chatting, and they said that they just had a British housemate leave and move back to England, and they needed someone to,
To
to
replace.
go in their flat. So just because I decided to go rock climbing that day, I had a flat right away. So that was pretty cool. And then without even trying, on like day 2, I had friends in Australia, and then I just met friends through their friends. And then the beauty about also working in a bar is it's an incredibly social atmosphere. And so, one, you get almost instant friends with who you're actually working with. And then also, with the drinking culture in Australia, people from 18 to 30, whatever age gap you are, they're out drinking anyway. So not only do you get to become really good friends with your coworkers from other bars before they start their shifts, they come to your bar, and then also the regulars that you see come in quite often, you have an opportunity to be social right off the bat. So hospitality is great if you're going to move abroad. If
Mm-hmm.
you want to be, if you don't want to be a bartender, you want to be a server or even like a host at a restaurant, just the opportunity it gives you, even if that's not something you want to do, like do it
Mm-hmm.
for a month, because then you're forced to meet people. If you just go to retail, it's a completely different vibe. You only know 2 other people at the store,
Yeah.
so it's a bit more difficult.
So you really had a fantastic time in Australia. And after Australia, you moved to New Zealand for how many years or for how many months?
Well, I did Australia for just under 2 years, and then
Mm-hmm.
I did New Zealand for 6 months.
For 6 months. What did you do there?
There, I wanted to explore as much of the South Island as I could. I love Lord of the Rings. I love the scenes from it, so I just wanted to see it. So I got part-time working at a bar, well, just over part-time working at a bar, and then also on the side, I continued going. We skipped over. I'd started film school back in Australia online, and also filmed a bit for some bars and restaurants there.
That's amazing. So we're just jumping from countries to countries and just getting the job that you could get when you were there. And fast forward to now, can you briefly explain what you do for a living, how it all began, and where you started? So, how did we meet? How did you get the job? And what was the kicking passion for you to transition into another field of work, which is what you're doing now, filmmaking?
Well, filmmaking was always something that I enjoyed when I was a little kid. Me and my friend Justin, actually, the guy who went to Australia with me, we would play around with cameras, make little videos of us. Like, we'd come up with a story, whether it be like we're pirates that day or we want to climb trees. So, how can we incorporate trees in a story? So, we would always film little things for fun, but never really got into editing. So, I always knew that was a possibility, and or I guess I always knew it was something I liked, but I never really saw it as a real passion project because in my head, filmmaking was either working for a local television network or working for Hollywood. And I didn't really want to go either of those routes. So I never really thought about it before. But then once I was in Australia and I was doing the bartending, it gave me time to get back into it. So I decided to fully dive in, learn how to do it. Got lucky getting good clients right off the bat because when I try and learn something, I just dive fully into it. So then when I went back in Canada for a brief bit in 2017/2018, and from all the stuff that I had learned the past 2 years before that, I put that to the test, and I worked for a local Canadian television network called TSN, and worked for hotels like Marriott International, the West Inn, and stuff like that.
Wow.
And then just built up my skills that way. But I always wanted to do something with social media, and it was actually funny. There's a YouTuber, John Olson. He put a video out in 2016 looking for a filmmaker and an editor for his channel.
Mm-hmm.
And before I saw that, I never knew it would be a possibility to get a job like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second I heard him say that, I wasn't good enough at the time to apply for him, but I knew that my goal was to work for a social media creator.
Mm-hmm.
So then I just dove into, that was basically my goal, why I worked for the West Inn and Marriott International, and why I worked for Canadian television was to get my skills up so I could eventually work in social media for a personality. And there was a couple out in Canada, in Toronto. One's named Peter McKinnon. He applied for it. He put out a position looking for an editor, so that was the first crack at something I did. And then about a week and a half later, my friend tagged me in a post on Facebook saying Drew Binsky was looking for an editor. And that was really cool because if she wouldn't have tagged me in that, I never would have saw the job because it didn't come up in my newsfeed. But anyway, Drew, I'd seen about 50 or so of his videos in the past, but I didn't know that much about him. So it was kind of nice to see that opportunity that she tagged me in. Then I immediately watched the video of you and Drew. I think you were on a beach or something calling for
An editor.
Yeah. And then, so from there, I just got into editing mode, and I gave a few examples of kind of my work to Drew because I went through his videos and I really liked his style, sharing stories. And I thought we'd be a good complement for each other because he's a master at storytelling, but I could tell that filmmaking wasn't his niche. Yeah, so I figured with me, with the filmmaking and the experience that I gained over the past 4 years with his amazing storytelling ability, and then also having two heads to think about the storytelling and the filmmaking. And I knew once we started working together, his eye for filmmaking would kind of catch similar to mine. So it's just been a great partnership going forward that way.
Yeah, I was really surprised that he told me one time that, oh, I just got a new editor from Canada and he's gonna arrive in November traveling with us. And I was really pumped because we've been traveling together for 3 years and I saw him that he's also having a hard time editing and doing the whole thing by himself. And you really helped him a lot, especially with all the sick transitions that you have. That's really amazing. We've received a lot of positive feedback from it. You and Drew, how do you divide your work? So what are the basics that you run through to each other before you film? So people would love to understand how you both work together.
I guess it comes from the start of an idea. Drew is the idea master. Sometimes he'll ask for some feedback or some suggestions, but he's the idea master. So he comes up with an idea, and then from there we kind of strategize briefly on how to film it, and then we go out in the field together and we kind of feed off each other. In November, there was a bit of a learning curve anytime you work with someone new, but now we seem to be pretty much on the same page where we'll know the types of shots that he needs to get for the story. I'll focus on the establishing shots, the shots that help the story go along, but he has the main part of the story in the interviews and the way he wants to narrate it. So then he communicates with me the shots that he wants to use to get that narration going and moving along. And then I get those shots for him as well. And it's just like a combination of him explaining to me his idea, his vision, how he's going to narrate it. And then I try my best to get that on film for him.
Wow. So is that a lot of work? How
Um,
many hours do you edit per day for one video?
it depends on the video. Some videos are a lot shorter, some videos are a lot longer. I'd say anywhere from 3 hours to 9 hours, depending on the video.
3 hours to 9 hours.
Yeah,
Depends on.
so it depends on the video. With something like the tea story in India, that one got really popular. We got 10 plus million views on that, so that was amazing. That was just a couple of quick camera moves, so I was able to edit that in 3 hours.
Mhm.
And that is not only the camera moves, that's some like background sound, some
Mhm.
ambiance and stuff like that. And then some other times, like when we were in India, I stacked a whole bunch of layers on top of each other in After Effects, and I made different transitions to the beat of the music that helped kind of narrate the story.
Mhm.
And I guess when you were talking about the transitions I do, that's the kind of stuff I do. So After Effects is a lot of like layering and clipping things. It's like a fancy program for editing that Adobe puts on. Anyway, something like that. It's all like fine-tuned
Mhm.
touches. So those are the ones that take like 9 hours.
That's a lot of work. Oh my God. What are the challenges that you face in filmmaking or for creating videos for people?
Well, one unique challenge was starting with Drew. I'm used to doing more of the traditional filmmaking side, working for a brand where it's you have the vision with the brand, and then you go in for the main filming day, and then a couple days to edit, and then you think you're on their vision, and then there's maybe 2 to 3 more days of tweaks. Like the brand will get back to you and they want something changed. So you really got to make sure everything's perfect. Where when I first started with Drew, it was a huge adjustment because I'd never done daily videos before,
Mm-hmm.
and then not only that, so you have to like drop the perfectionism because I'm used to having an
Yes.
edit that I can do for 3 days. Now all of a sudden I have on the regular maybe 3 to 6 hours to edit something. So and that's like full final touches and everything. And it was just so unique to do that. But yeah, I guess the biggest thing was getting used to not being a perfectionist and just kind of telling yourself, I have 6 hours. It's like an exam in high school or university. When
Mm-hmm.
the bell rings, you have to put your pencil down. You have no choice. It's kind of thing Drew will tell me like 10 p.m. it has to be done.
Yeah, and
So
it
I
has
just
to be
do. It has
done.
to be done because he's
Yeah.
uploading it at 10:15.
Because he gets so stressed when he can't upload a video at the exact time that he needs to upload it.
Yeah, he's a
He
daily
gets
vlogger.
stressed with
Well,
that.
there's
Do you
because
also get stressed? Like, oh my God.
um I guess I don't get stressed in the same way he does because it's his channel, and but I do completely understand that like he needs to get out at a certain time because
Mm-hmm.
there's a
People
certain
are
time
waiting.
when not so much that, well, yes, people are waiting, but also there's a window because he's in Asia, so there's a certain window before people to get too tired and go to bed, and also when people in the other side of the world in North America
Mm-hmm.
are waking up. So it's like kind of like a perfect 1 hour window to get the video out, and so I can see why he stresses. So my job is just to get it to him as quickly as possible and help edit thumbnails and stuff like that so he doesn't get stressed, I guess.
That's good. You're a very good help. Let's go back to when you started filmmaking. So you didn't really had a proper education for filming because a lot of people like in like the directors blah 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 blah, they went to like filming school for how many years, study it, and then intern for a production company and then do it for themselves like in the long run. How did you figure out the passion for filmmaking, and what was the aha moment when you told yourself that, oh my God, I'm really good at this, I can make money out of it? And how did you sell yourself?
Wow, lots of lots of good questions in that one. So back to the very beginning, it's not so much that I instantly chose right away about skipping film school. As you said, it's 4 years. It's a lot of time. I kind of looked into it and value for me personally, and although I would lose some of the personal connections and maybe some networking right off the bat that you get from film school, it was a 4-year commitment, and I just saw social media rising so rapidly that I felt if I put 4 years into it, I would have like a negative outcome by the time those 4 years are over. So I'm the type of person, when I'm interested in something, like I just fully dive into it. Wake up, basically do it all, fully study filmmaking until I have to go work on a bartending shift, or if I have a day off, I might spend an hour on the beach, but the rest is just going to be fully studying filmmaking. So I guess how I first got into it because I finally had the opportunity in Australia to dive into something I was interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of just worked, and I wanted to see how good I could get at it compared to, I guess, the peer level that I was at. And then once I saw that I was improving faster than, I guess, other people or some friends that were video editing, it gave me more motivation. And then from there, it was just something that I enjoyed doing, and I had
Mm-hmm.
nothing to lose, because worst case, if it all crashed and burned, I could just do bartending for a while until I figured out something else. So I guess the biggest thing was that I had another income stream, but I in the end, I gave myself less hours at the bar so I could spend more time learning. So I guess any advice to someone going forward is make sure that you've got like a safety net of income, so that way you don't have to worry about that, and your focus doesn't have to be making rent, or if you live with your parents, your focus doesn't have to be other things. It can just be
Mm-hmm.
fully on filmmaking. And sorry, what was the second half of that
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, I think you've answered that. The second half was, what was the aha moment that you said to
Oh, right.
yourself that I can make money out of what I'm good at?
So I think the biggest aha moment for me was before I was fully good yet. Was when, like I was saying earlier in the podcast, when Jan Olsen, a YouTuber, he used to be a professional skier. He was hiring a new video and editor person, and it was going to be like a real salary with real benefits, getting to travel the world. And when I saw that filmmaking was now really hitting the mainstream on social media, you didn't have to be the creator. You didn't have to be the Drew Binsky. You didn't have to be the John Olsen or
Mm-hmm.
whomever else. You could actually have a job doing that, and it was something you're interested in, and it offered free travel around the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's what was the aha moment. Like, oh my God, a job exists out there where I can get paid to travel the world. And then that was kind of the aha moment. And then I put even more time into learning and went from there.
Yeah, and now you're a pro.
Thanks.
But you still continue learning, right?
Oh yeah, like you might say I'm a pro or whatever, but I know compared to like a lot of the people I look up to,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm definitely down near the bottom of the scale. So for me, it's an opportunity to work on these daily videos, and every day I just try and learn something new that I can add it to Drew's videos, but also add it to my own portfolio as well.
Do you compare yourself to other creators or filmmakers? Like after you have done something or a project, do you often catch yourself comparing your work to others?
Yeah, I do. But I do it in a healthy way. Like I don't get down on myself. Like obviously there's always going to be people better than me. Like even if I started when I was 12 and I was editing forever, there'd
Mm-hmm.
still be people better than me, right? So the way that I see it is I'd see it on more of an inspiration angle. Like one person who works with a lot of After Effects that I really look up to is Andreas Hem. He's a guy out of Norway. He was kind of self-taught on a computer, similar like me, and then he started getting into the EDM festivals, and he just does incredible work with After Effects and stuff like that. So what I do basically after I finish every project, I always see kind of where I could get better, and instead of just like kind of going the negative side is, oh, that work wasn't very good, I'm like, well, that's what I can do right now, and let me see what I can do to make it better.
What are the realizations from you jumping to that crazy move when you moved to Australia, and now that you're in Thailand and now that you're traveling the world? What's your biggest realization about life in general, or about the work or career that you chose?
For me, it comes back to do something that you really want to do, so it doesn't feel like work. At the end of the day, a lot of people talk about being an entrepreneur or being your own boss. And what they don't see is that's working 12 to 16 to 18 hours a day. So you need to ask yourself what type of person you are. And it's totally fine. You just have to know what you are. If you're a type of person who just likes going to work 9 to 5 and you actually physically enjoy that because you have your nights and your weekends free, then go for that. But me personally, I'm not like that. Like, I go crazy if I'm under someone else's rule. So that's why I try to go into filmmaking. And even in Canada and other places, I'm doing client work where I might be making a video on a washing machine.
No, really?
And personally, I'm not that interested in washing machines. I put clothes in them, they wash. I don't care if it's 10 years old or whatever, it works, right? So that was kind of like the other types of things that were in my field. So now that I'm fully working in social media, I'm doing like the escaping 9 to 5. I've escaped it. Some days I'm working 18-hour days. But for me, even though I'm working 18-hour days, if you put in the filmmaking and the editing all together, it doesn't feel like work. And I guess that's my biggest advice to
It's
someone.
fulfilling.
It's really fulfilling because it's doing something I enjoy. And so if a person is going to go for that, I think they'll feel really fulfilled, as you said. But the biggest thing is don't give up right away. For me to get to this point, I had to spend a year or so filming washing machines, and I didn't like it, but I knew that the future held something bigger, and that's kind of where I'd go for that.
Speaking of a 9 to 5, I always ask this question to all of my guests. Do you think that people who work remotely or people who's following their passion and doing what they love are more happier than people who are sitting in an office and having a 9 to 5 job? Do you feel that we're happier people compared to them?
As a general statement, I would say yes, and overwhelmingly yes if you're the type of person who's in your job looking at the clock every 30 minutes. Then you definitely need to find something
Yeah.
that you're interested in. But I do have some friends who have a government job. They don't care what they do. They're just happy they have to work 7 hours a day, and then the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the day with their friends, and on the weekends they take trips. So I think a lot of people aren't like that though.
So
So
it's not for everyone.
it's definitely not for everyone, but I think it's worth a shot.
That's good. Yeah, you're right. Because a lot of people only wish that they could escape whatever they're doing, but they don't follow whatever their passion or what they don't find the time to know what they're good at and hone their skills. Like what you did. You were in Physio, but you figured out that you love filmmaking. And since you were little, you were filming with your best friend. And now that's exactly what you're doing and you're traveling the world. So, do you think, or do you agree with following your passion or chasing that dream?
Yeah, fully. I mean, you have to, and it doesn't matter if you're 20 or 50. You might as well do something that you actually enjoy.
What advice can you give to younger people who's studying right now, who's studying arts, music, and other kind of stuff that their parents, quote unquote, say that you're not going to get money when you're out of college because of that course that you're taking? Because now parents would love you to, or would love their kids to be a lawyer, to be a doctor, where they're going to get more money after graduating. What advice can you give to them?
You really got to ask yourself, is this something that you're really interested in? Your parents are going to have their best interests of you, so what they think is best for you, but that's not necessarily what's in your head. So really think about it, see what's most passionate for you. If it is going in art school, great. If university is the best thing for art, do your 4 years of university. But if you're really passionate about art and maybe you see someone has a school in France or somewhere down the street from you, maybe you could look into that instead. Maybe you could look into an influencer who's an artist who's doing really well, and maybe you want to intern for them. It doesn't have to necessarily be university for like those 4 years. I mean, if it is, great, but I would say fully dive into your passion.
Mm-hmm.
And if your parents do want you to be a lawyer, and maybe you're thinking about it, but you're not quite sure, if you are young, you're starting school at 17, 18, 20, whatever it is, follow your passion for 3, 4 years. Then all of a sudden you're 24 let's say you realize that, you know what, I didn't like art after all. Maybe mom was right. Let me be a lawyer. Well, then do it then when you're 24, 25, 26, after you've experienced and tried your passion first. And then if you start being a lawyer when you're 24, you're still a lawyer at 30, and that gives you 20 years of being a lawyer. So you're not missing out on anything.
So you gotta try. So what you're saying is like they can also listen to their parents, but also do not lose that voice from within or what they really want or what their heart is telling them that, oh, I think this is what you're good at.
Yeah, and so that's one big thing is follow the voice, but also know that it's most likely not going to happen right away. So it has to be something that you really enjoy. So for instance, my washing machine example, I had to film washing machines for a year before I got to do what I wanted, but that was okay because I knew that I was working little steps. So maybe you have to, in Canada, there's this company called Paint Night where a group of people get together and they just paint, and there's an instructor that teaches them. But if you're an artist, I'm assuming that's a boring job. But maybe you're the instructor of Paint Night for 2 years because it's in your field and it's an income that allows you to do something that you'd rather do later on. So it's just patience, I guess. Do what you really like and patience.
That's a good answer. Okay, so earlier you said that there's a lot of challenges that you face along the way. So when you're creating something, and if you're a creative person, some of the times you feel down, and some of the times you lose creativity. How do you keep that juice in your head? Or how do you like squeeze a lemon in your brain that you need to produce a lot of creativity? Because those shots, like, you need to think, how do you stay creative?
Okay, so how I stay creative is I go to a scene and I try and think of how many angles there are to tell the story, and I focus on whatever's going to get the person from point A to point B. And in my case, with some of these cooler sequences, I try to show as much as possible in a unique way, kind of something different than what you'd typically see on, let's say, Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
So how I stay creative is I go with the ideas I have at the time, then I go into the editing suite and I lay them all down together, and then I'll see what I come up with at the end of a sequence, and then that'll be done, that specific project. And what I like to do is I really enjoy watching other creators. If I've only got a short amount of time, I'll focus on the people that are better than me. If I've got a little bit more time, I'll look at all kinds of different creators because you can learn something new from everyone's different perspective. And then from there, what I'll do is my favorite thing or the most unique thing that I've seen, I'll try and say, okay, now how can I do it, but not ripping them off, like do it in a way that fits my style.
Mm-hmm.
And then so anytime I'm like lacking creative juices or I want to try something new, I go online and I look at my peers and what they're
Mm-hmm.
doing, and then I try and incorporate my own style of that in my videos.
And how do you keep motivated?
Motivation is a tricky thing because you need to have it to keep being motivated. If you don't have the motivation
Mm-hmm.
right off the bat, you're not going to. So it just comes back to a couple things. If you're, for instance, you've been motivated in the past and you've just had, like, let's say the equivalent of writer's block or whatever it is, my thing to do would be get outside. Don't do whatever your creative outlet is. Like, get rid of it for a day or two. Um, Maybe just go to the park with your friends, unwind. If you like sports, go play that sport. If
Mm-hmm.
you like art, maybe go to a cafe outside your house. If it's warm, go to the beach, do some art, whatever it is you're into, and then completely get out of the main focus for like 1 to 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you come back to it, you should be refreshed.
It's like hitting the refresh button.
Exactly. And then how do you stay motivated on the daily grind is just give yourself one task. Let's say it's filmmaking, like in my situation. Maybe you know what, you're in between big projects, or you're stuck in the middle of a big project and you don't know what to do. Find one little tiny skill online, learn it, go outside, practice it, and then take it in an editing suite. And sure, it might not be on the project that you're working on now, but it allows those creative juices to flow on something related to your field. And then, so for instance, that could be like an hour project. And then once I do that, like reset my head, something I'm interested in, then I'll go back to the project and just keep doing it. But the biggest thing is just find a small goal so you get a little bit forward, and then just small goal, small goal, small goal. Because if you look at the big picture, like when I used to edit like for shows, and it would be like a 200-hour edit or whatever. I only had one of those, but let's say it's like a 60-hour edit. If I am on the start of a 60-hour edit, it might seem insurmountable, but if I just do hour one, day one, and then all of a sudden it's a week later, then it's done. It's all because of the small little steps
that you take. Yeah. And what's next for Michael? What's next for you? What can we expect from you?
So I'm going to continue traveling around with Drew and making videos for him.
And me too. You want to forget about me?
You're right here. I haven't forgot about you. So I'm going to be traveling around with Drew and I think her name's DEANNA.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no, DEANNA's a great pleasure to have on our travels. And yeah, so doing that. And also because I have this passion for filmmaking, I feel like I'm not getting enough out, so I'm also launching my own channel where I'm going to be making my own videos about once a week as I travel along with Drew, so kind of my own perspective on stories. I'm also going to focus a little more on showing different destinations off as well, because I really enjoyed that aspect of it as well. And I'm going to the Philippines tomorrow. I'm going to do Palawan.
I'm so jealous.
I'm excited, so I'm going to do my first project in the Philippines.
I know. It's also refreshing to see an angle that is from you and also a storytelling angle from Drew. So it's two completely different worlds that we can see or we can expect from you, because you're really good at this like crazy shots, and it's just refreshing. It's amazing that you're starting your own channel, which is called
Michael Makes Films.
Michael Makes Films. So you changed your Instagram name, right?
Yeah, so now it is on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all Michael Makes Films. And Instagram is still the same account. I just changed my name. And then on Facebook and YouTube, I have new accounts that I'm building and will be released mid to late February. And I'm excited because I'll be starting off with the Philippines videos.
I know, I'm so excited. So you're going to the Philippines, and what can we expect from the videos that you'll be posting from the Philippines?
So a few different styles. One, I kind of want to show off the Philippines because it's so beautiful. Also take people along my journey. Not a vlog, but I'd guess closer to a vlog than what Drew's style is. But then also I do want to share a few stories. So the story of some famous Philippines food like balut and
oh my
itsao.
God. Wait, are you really going to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna kill you if you're not gonna eat balut. Are you gonna eat the whole thing?
I'm gonna take a big bite.
A big bite. Okay, and we'll expect that from your video.
Yeah, that'll be in the video for sure.
Oh my God, I can't wait. And you have to try isaw. So isaw is like, it's an intestine. You can choose from pig or from chicken. It's really delicious.
Chicken smaller, I think I'll go with that.
You should also try pig's tongue or ears. It's really good.
A matter of opinion. I'm so excited.
Are you also going to launch your own website so that for people can contact you or for like brands to?
Yeah, so I just picked up michaelmakefilms.com. Sorry, michaelmakesfilms.com.
Oh, yeah.
So I just bought that website.
Wow.
It doesn't have anything on it now. I think the best thing is just my socials, and then I have an email address on my socials as well that you can reach out to me, because it's probably going to take me a bit of time to build the website.
Yeah, it will. Websites are really hard to make, especially it needs a lot of time and effort from you. Forget about that. You just enjoy Philippines, and I know that you're going to have fun. And I'm really happy that you had a free time to stop by and to record this podcast, because a lot of people are very curious of you behind the scenes, because they only see the sick videos from Drew and they want to know you better, and they want to know you more, your background, and I'm so happy that you have had time to explain it to us.
So yeah, thank you very much for having me on. It was great to be part of the Escaping 9 to 5, and I hope I can inspire some people to actually give it a shot and give it a go and leave the 9 to 5.
Yeah, and now it's time for rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
You don't think, you just like dive into it.
Okay.
Fire away, okay? Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Work at home or working at space?
Like, do you mean in nature or like hubba?
Co-working space.
Home.
Mac or Windows?
Mac.
Friday night Netflix or at a bar?
Neither.
No? This is you. Netflix and a bar. That's Michael. It's flashing Michael on my screen.
Well, I never go to the bar anymore, and Netflix is like a destroyer of productivity.
Chips or chocolate?
Chocolate.
Wine or beer?
Beer.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Best place to work as a digital nomad? Asia or Australia?
Oh, you're so mean. As a digital nomad moving around, Asia makes so much more sense, but it hurts my heart to say that because I love Australia.
So, no?
No, Asia, but it hurts my heart to say that
Okay.
Australia is probably better.
Oh, cry. Best productivity app?
I use Wunderlist with Drew, and that just lets us keep on top of each other.
Lifting or yoga?
Lifting.
Instagram or Facebook?
Instagram.
Physio or video?
Video.
Headphones or AirPods?
Headphones.
Thank you.
Earpods
It's
don't
done.
stay in my ears.
What? Yeah. That's good. Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, Deanna.
You're welcome. And they can follow you at Michael Makes Films. That's MichaelMakesFilms.
You passed your spelling bee. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Hello again, podcast listeners. Join me every weekend, and if you haven't yet, subscribe now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. You can subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join me again next week for another inspiring journey in helping you escaping 9 to 5.